In September 2015, the state of Utah experienced one of its most devastating natural disasters when a series of flash floods swept through the southern region, claiming the lives of at least 20 people. The primary incidents occurred in Zion National Park, Keyhole Canyon, and the border towns of Hilldale, Utah, and Colorado City, Arizona. These floods represent one of the deadliest weather-related disasters in Utah's recent history, turning popular hiking destinations and residential streets into raging torrents within minutes. The events of September 2015 serve as a sobering reminder of nature's unpredictable power and raise important questions about disaster preparedness, risk management, and public safety in areas prone to flash flooding. Hello, and welcome to Deadliest Disasters, where we cover some of the most devastating events that happened throughout history. Utah's unique geography and geology create perfect conditions for flash flooding. The state's dramatic landscape features narrow slot canyons, steep terrain, and desert floors, all elements that contribute to rapid water accumulation during heavy rainfall. When precipitation falls on the state's rocky, non-porous surfaces, water cannot be absorbed and instead rushes downhill, gathering speed and volume. The narrow canyons that attract tourists from around the world also act as a dangerous funnel during heavy rainfall, concentrating water flow and increasing its destructive force. Historically, Utah has experienced numerous flash floods, but few have been as deadly as the 2015 events. The monsoon season, typically lasting from July through September, brings the greatest risk. During these months, moisture from the Gulf of Mexico and the Pacific Ocean flows into the region, creating intense, localized thunderstorms that can drop massive amounts of precipitation in very short periods. The conditions preceding the September 2015 floods were particularly dangerous. After months of drought, the hardened ground was especially unreceptive to moisture. When a powerful storm system moved through southern Utah on September 14th, it released substantial rainfall, up to 1.5 inches in just a few hours. In desert regions accustomed to only inches of rain per year, this deluge created immediate and catastrophic runoff. Zion National Park, with its majestic sandstone cliffs and popular slot canyons, became the site of a harrowing tragedy during the floods. On September 14th, a group of 7 canyoneers entered Keyhole Canyon on what began as a moderately challenging adventure. The group consisted of experienced outdoor enthusiasts from California and Nevada who had obtained proper permits and were familiar with canyoneering techniques. As they navigated the narrow passages of Keyhole Canyon, a storm cell released heavy rainfall over the area. Though the rain may not have been directly visible to the hikers deep in the canyon, the effects were swift and devastating. Within minutes, water levels rose dramatically, transforming the navigable canyon into a deadly trap. All 7 members of the group perished in agonizing ways. The timeline of events illustrates the frighteningly rapid nature of flash floods. Park officials issued warnings about potential flooding in the morning, but by early afternoon, when the storm intensified, it was too late for the canyoneers already within Keyhole. Search and rescue operations began promptly, but were hampered by continuing poor weather conditions. Recovery efforts continued for several days before all victims were located. What made this particular incident so lethal was the confined space of Keyhole Canyon. Unlike wider areas where floodwaters can spread out, the narrow walls of the slot canyon concentrated the water's force. Additionally, escape routes were limited, and the suddenness of the flood left little time for reaction. Even for experienced outdoor adventurers, these conditions proved insurmountable. Perhaps even more heart-wrenching was the tragedy that unfolded in the twin communities of Hilldale, Utah, and Colorado City, Arizona. Here, the disaster struck not adventurers who knowingly accepted some degree of risk, but families going about their daily lives. On the same afternoon as the Zion incident, 2 vehicles carrying 16 people, Mostly mothers and children were attempting to navigate a normally dry wash crossing when a wall of water, mud, and debris descended upon them. The vehicles were swept away almost instantly. In a cruel twist, witnesses were present but utterly helpless to intervene as the cars were carried downstream. 3 women and 10 children lost their lives in this incident. Only 3 children survived, having been rescued by emergency personnel and community members who rushed to the scene. The victims were all members of large families from the Fundamentalist Church of Jesus Christ, or the FLDS Mormon community that dominates these border towns. The impact on this close-knit community was profound. Many families lost multiple members, creating a web of grief that touched nearly everyone in the area. The disaster exposed vulnerabilities in local infrastructure, particularly the design of road crossings over typically dry washes, which can become treacherous during heavy rainfall. While the Zion and Hilldale tragedies garnered the most media attention, on September 2015, floods affected numerous other locations throughout southern Utah. Flash flooding was reported across Washington, Kane, and Garfield counties, causing widespread damage to homes, businesses, roads, and bridges. Additional fatalities occurred when a 33-year-old man was swept away while trying to rescue a woman from a flooded vehicle near Hurricane, Utah. Property damage was extensive, with estimated costs running into the millions of dollars. Many communities were temporarily isolated as floodwaters washed out roads and bridges. The scope of the disaster revealed the interconnected vulnerability of southern Utah's communities and infrastructure. Emergency services were stretched thin, responding to multiple crisis points simultaneously, highlighting the challenges faced by rural emergency management systems during widespread natural disasters. The emergency response involved local, state, and federal agencies working together. Local first responders, including fire departments and sheriff's offices, conducted immediate search and rescue operations. As the scale of the disaster became apparent, Utah Governor Gary Herbert deployed additional resources, including National Guard units to assist with search and recovery and cleanup efforts. FEMA eventually provided disaster assistance to affected communities. Search operations in Zion National Park involved specialized teams trained in technical canyon rescues, while the response in Hilldale and Colorado City drew extensively on community volunteers who worked alongside professional emergency personnel. The national reaction to the floods was one of shock and sympathy. Media coverage brought attention to the dangers of flash flooding and the particular vulnerabilities of Utah's popular outdoor recreation areas. Support for victims' families came from across the country, with numerous fundraising efforts established to assist with funeral expenses and recovery needs. Several factors contributed to the high death toll of the 2015 floods. Weather forecasting, while accurate in predicting the potential for heavy rainfall, faces inherent limitations in precisely locating and timing flash flood events. The National Weather Service had issued flash flood warnings for the region, but the hyper-local nature of these events makes it difficult to predict exactly which canyons or stream beds will experience dangerous conditions. Canyon safety protocols existed, but faced implementation challenges. Zion National Park requires permits for canyoneering and provides safety information, but ultimately, decisions about entering canyons rests with the visitors. Once canyoneers are deep within slot canyons, communication of updated weather information becomes nearly impossible. Decision-making by both recreationists and local residents played a role in the outcomes. The Keyhole Canyon canyoneers chose to proceed despite general warnings, possibly underestimating the speed with which conditions could deteriorate. Similarly, the Hilldale, Colorado City victims attempted to cross a wash during dangerous conditions, perhaps due to familiarity with the crossing or underestimation of the risks. The tragic events of September 2015 catalyzed significant changes in park safety, emergency response protocols, and public education. Zion National Park revised its permit system and visitor education materials to emphasize the dangers of flash flooding more explicitly. The park also enhanced its weather monitoring systems and established clear protocols for canyon closures during high-risk weather conditions. Local municipalities examined their infrastructure, particularly road crossings over washes. Some communities installed improved warning systems, flood gauges, and in some cases, bridges to replace low water crossings. The National Weather Service, in partnership with state agencies, developed enhanced outreach programs to educate both tourists and residents about flash flood risks and appropriate responses. Schools incorporated flash flood safety into their emergency preparedness curricula. The tourism material now feature more prominent warnings about seasonal flood dangers. The loss of at least 20 lives, adventurers and families alike, created a profound impact that continues to shape policies and practices throughout the region. These events demonstrate the complex interplay between natural forces, human decision-making, infrastructure planning, and emergency response capabilities. While flash floods remain an inherent risk in Utah's dramatic landscape, the lessons learned from the 2015 tragedy have led to measurable improvements in how the risk is managed and mitigated. Thanks for watching today's video on this devastating but important historical event. If you found this informative, please hit that like button and subscribe for more historical deep dives, and let me know in the comments what other overlooked historical events you'd like to learn about. Until next time, this has been Deadliest Disasters.